Hello, welcome back. Happy or Merry Christmas, Merry belated Christmas. I hope you had a good time with your family. Actually, funny story. I was gonna make a video about this on TikTok. I still might, but I haven't went and exchanged it yet. So my parents so graciously got me a Junior Caminero jersey for Christmas, which, if you know, I love Cami. However, I don't think they knew because I haven't worn it yet, but I have a Caminero Devil Rays jersey that I have not worn yet. No fault of their own. And so they were like, oh, well, the funny thing was, hold on. It's a men's large jersey. It's quite big on me. It kind of looks like a nightgown. My mom said, though, I think they got it from the mall, but she said that they were just sold out and that was the only size they had, which I think is, in a way, nice to hear that so many of Junior's jerseys were sold out of various different sizes at the mall. So I think that's nice. But also, since I already have a Cami jersey and I now have this one that's way too big for me. Anyway, we're all on the same page that I'm probably going to exchange it. And if you know me, my favorite Rays player, probably my favorite Ray of all time, is Yandy Diaz. And I can go into a whole thing about how much Yandy means to me. I love him so much. But I have been terrified, and I'm not even being dramatic when I use the word terrified, but I've always been so afraid to get his jersey because I try not to, but I do believe in the jersey curse. So, and I don't even like to kind of give that any credit. Especially with what happened to Brandon Lowe last week, people are like, "Oh, this is why you don't buy Rays jerseys," even though he was a Ray for 8 seasons. Like, I don't feel that was justified in getting that response, that trade. Getting off on a tangent there, but with Yandy, I love him so much that if I were to get a jersey of him and he be traded or God forbid he get hurt, like I would have taken it very personally. And of course, I would have believed that I had some direct influence on the universe, which my dad rolls his eyes because I believe in a lot of superstitions. However, you know, I didn't want to get one after his Silver Slugger season. And then I was getting more and more nervous as the season went on. And he had such a good season 2025 that I've actually just come to this realization and I've kind of just matured. And Yandy is also one of those guys. He's now one of the longest tenured Rays alongside, I think, McClanahan. So it's like, you know, do I want him to be traded or anything like that? No. Obviously, I don't want him to be hurt or anything, but I'm to the point where having a Yandy Diaz Rays jersey is going to be timeless. I think I said this in my last video about Bilal, but these are like Rays that are synonymous with the team, with the franchise. And so no matter what, Diaz number 2 jersey is always going to hold value, at least to me as a diehard Rays fan. So sorry if whatever, I don't regret having or purchasing a Yandy jersey. So at some point, I am going to go to the mall and exchange it for the correct size, first of all. And then second of all, I am going to get a Yandy jersey. And so that was just an entire tangent, but I am very grateful for the jersey. They're not cheap. So I appreciate my parents for getting me that. And their thought process, I'm sure, was just how much I love Cammy. And of course, I've talked about a million times. My dad and I went and watched the Home Run Derby and had that experience. And Junior was a lot to do with it. So, anyway, all of that to be said, I hope you had a Merry Christmas. I'm not going to give airtime to people who think that I'm in it for clout or whatever, because I spent yesterday afternoon compiling all of my don't look at that. I have actually good handwriting, but when it comes to just jotting my thoughts down, it very well might be hieroglyphics. I spent a lot of yesterday recapping or writing down notes on what the Rays have done this offseason thus far. We are still, a couple months out from the start of baseball season. Spring training is right around the corner. I think it's 45 days until pitchers and catchers report. Not that I'm counting. I am. I have a countdown on my homepage of my phone. Up until this point, I wanted to just try to make sense of it all. There was a lot of shuffling. There's been a lot of moves, and I talked about this in my last episode. It's kind of hard for an average fan to kind of keep up with everyone, and then also a ton of players that you've never heard of before that you're acquiring in these trades. It's like hard to have a frame of reference on like who are they. All you know is who you lost because you know those names. I'm not even saying that I am well versed on prospects. I'm decently good about the Rays prospects, but like it's not across the league. And so I totally understand kind of the confusion, or not even confusion, just, you don't know what you don't know. So what I did is I compiled all of my notes and tried to make sense of them. I'm going to try to go through what the Rays have done up until this point. I did type up my chicken scratch, so I will be looking at my notes here. I'm referencing a Mark Tompkin article in the Times, and I'm going to find it and put the name of it here or there or wherever. I'm also going to move this a little bit because I'm going to be I also made graphics, okay? Because seeing names and faces really helps me, and I feel like it helps most people. So I'm going to scooch so that I can put them here. Before I get to that point, I thought it was very interesting yesterday. I sat down and I read a ton of articles from the beginning of November, I would say. I usually read them, but when you go back, and I talked about this in my last episode, but when you go back in time to kind of piece things together, it helps. It helps with the context. What I want to say is in this particular episode, or not episode, article, Eric alluded to the core of the Rays and who and what that is. And it seems like your core of the Rays is going to be Cammy, which is no surprise. Aranda, not really a surprise to me. Simpson, kind of a surprise to me, but also I can see it. And now Jacob Melton, who is who we acquired in the Brandon Lowe trade. So I'm going to get to him. But it seems as if he is really prioritizing this shift from just a lot of moving pieces and how that hasn't paid off. That has not reaped benefits, especially missing the playoffs, especially having a losing season. And so it sounds like the term core or nucleus is being thrown around because he's even talking about the past seasons, the past Rays seasons, where in your 08s and in your 2019s to 2020s, there was a core there. And I don't think that we've really prioritized that or focused on it. But if that's like part of the equation for a successful team, building around it makes sense. Now, the downside, and I don't want to say downside because again, I do think this team as it sits right now, and hopefully with maybe one or two more moves, can be competitive and can be fun. But the part about growing a core or establishing a core is kind of, it has to grow. It has to start off as a literal nucleus and build around. And so that doesn't come fast. That's not that instant gratification, unfortunately. And again, I do think this team can be successful in 2026, but I really like this team and the forecast for this team, as Eric has said and the front office has said, 27, 28, and you know what's supposed to happen in 29. So all of that to be said, keeping that in mind as we go forward with the different pieces. So obviously people or players who are not here anymore, most notably, I think Pete Fairbanks. Well, that's not true because you could consider Bilal, but Pete's option wasn't picked up versus Brandon's was. So the Rays, as you know, declined the $11 million option on Pete. I think they paid $1 million for the buyout, and he actually this past week signed a 1-year contract with the Miami Marlins for $13 million. Some context for that, him signing for $13 million shows his lack of trade value. I don't think there was a trade worth $2 million where you're not getting back some sort of risky prospect or, just something to get something back, if that makes sense. And so not granting, but giving Pete the ability to be a free agent, go out there and sign with where he feels is best and shop the market, I think makes sense. He will get to stay in the warm weather. He'll get to stay in the state. And as you know, he has that condition where he can't feel his hands or something in the cold. So this seems like the best case scenario. And I think finding out that he was going to the Marlins and for $13 million makes a lot of sense. So you cut ties with Pete Fairbanks. Adrian Hauser also became a free agent this year, and I believe he ended up signing with the Giants for 22. Oh my gosh, you might have to fact check me because I don't know where it is in my scramble of notes here, but I believe he ended up signing with the San Francisco Giants on a 2-year, $22 million deal, which is good for him. Like that's a good contract to have and shows the value of starting pitching and especially a veteran arm like him, especially when the Rays are looking for their own veteran arm, probably aren't going to drop that much. I've heard that they're shopping Zach Eflin. I've heard maybe Littell. That's to be determined, but that shows you the veteran starting pitching market in Adrian Hauser going to the Giants. Now, as we also know, Christopher Morel was DFA'd. He hit 208 with the Rays, 14 home runs. Unfortunately, just never got going. I know we've talked about that in the past. And he also signed with the Miami Marlins. And I don't think I wrote down what his deal was, but I do also believe it was a 1-year deal. Now, I've talked about these before, but it doesn't hurt to have a refresher, I guess. So the Rays protected 3 players from Rule 5, which is also why some of that roster shuffling had to happen, because you have to make room for these players to protect them by putting them on your roster. So you have to move some away. And so those 3 players are Dominic Keegan, Jadier Arenamo, which I need to get better at saying that, and then Alex Cook. So I think I've talked about these 3 before, but just a refresher. Dominic Keegan, the Rays front office, this is what I did. I made a lot of notes on what the Rays front office has said about these players to kind of help you understand their mindset, I guess. We can all understand their mindset. So the Rays front office has called Keegan real nice catching insurance. Makes me think we're rolling out for sure Fortes and Fetty, but they see a lot of promise in this guy and Keegan, depth catcher who can hit, and Lord knows they need it. So they protected him, as well as Arenamo, who is an infielder that we acquired in the Danny Jansen trade with the Brewers over the summer. He hit 285 in Double-A. He can play second base. He's known for his personality, which I know I've talked about before. I'm very curious to see him. Like, I want to see this kid play. Think there's a lot of promise there, but also needs some time. Lastly, they protected Alex Cook, who's a right-handed pitcher. He has had some shoulder issues in the past, but he was healthy late season, and so he had 13 relief outings in Montgomery with a 2.3 ERA. Rays really like his strike throwing and pitch shape, so enough to protect him and put him on the 40-man. So those are 3 names and faces that you might see and hear again for reference. All right, let's talk about the trades. Honestly, the Brandon Lowe trade and the Shane Baz trade, and I hate to call it the Brandon Lowe trade because I know Jake and Monty are both a part of it, but it's a mouthful to say all 3 names. But anyway, those 2 trades, totally have forgotten about everything else that the Rays had done, but we're getting there. The Rays first traded, I don't think first traded, but early on, Everson Piera, who we got for the Caballero trade with the Yankees. No one talks about how much that irritated me. I know we needed an outfielder with pop. Hello. It's like saying the sky is blue. But man, Cabby, for that, I guess we have Richie to be our utility guy. But man, I loved me some Jose Caballero. Anyway, we've traded Everson and Tanner Murray to the Chicago White Sox. In return, the Rays got a right-hander named Yoendrys Gomez. Who knows if I'm saying the first name right? I think I am. And right-hander Steven Wilson. Now, according to my notes, because I can kind of read these. So Gomez is going to be looked at as a starter, but he is out of options. So he might also be a multi-inning relief help. So it's going to be interesting kind of how they use him, how it all works out. He's got a great fastball and slider that they like. And Steven Wilson. I like when the Rays ultimately get someone that they've known that they've wanted for a while. Because I just know that the scouting department and I just know that they do such a good job that when they're able to finally get a player they've had their eyes on, I don't know, I just feel like that's so rewarding or I don't know, validating. Anyway, that's Steven Wilson. They've actually had interest in him for a while, and he is a bullpen arm who has a not crazy, but has a pitch arsenal that is really interesting to have in your bullpen. So I'm excited to see him. Like I said, when the Rays say that we've been interested in a player for a while and then they end up getting him, I don't know, that makes me eager. So that's where I see there. Let's see what else. Oh, Tristan Gray. I did talk about this before because I had turned into a Tristan Gray fan. Just, I liked the guy. I'm not acting like he was, but I liked Tristan Gray. Anyway, traded to Boston, got a reliever in return for Luis Guerrero. He's a reliever with a 2.63 ERA in 22 appearances last season for Boston, I believe. He was outrighted to AAA, so like he won't have to take up a roster spot. But again, I do kind of feel like, and maybe I'm just saying this out of turn, but I do kind of feel like there are a lot of project arms for Kyle Schneider. Like, he's almost like a doctor with his patient list and, like, what we need to work on, but I guess that's his job. But when I see him, these different players, I'm like, well, we'll get him in to see Kyle. We'll get him in to see Snides and see what he says, see what we can do. Eric Orzi was then traded to the Minnesota Twins. Just I think I've talked about this before. I thought he died because I was just so surprised we never saw him as much as we did. I didn't mind Orsi, but anyway, traded to the Twins and got back Jacob Kisting, who is supposed to be a starter, but he's kind of taken the road less traveled. And, I think it was just kind of like a one-for-one swap. Rays have seen too much of Eric Orzi. I said in the past that he was exposed to all of the roster shuffling, and so they cut ties with him. I also feel that way about Jacob Kisting and the Twins organization. Twins are great with pitching too, so if they're feeling like they can't figure him out, maybe a change of scenery, and that's kind of what they alluded to. So there's that. Now, again, we have talked, this is kind of like the point of this episode, okay? Because I know a lot of people want to know why the heck Brandon Lowe was traded. Okay. So Brandon Lowe, Jake Mangum, and Mason Montgomery are headed to Pittsburgh in a 3-team trade where we got back 2 players from Houston, okay? You're following me? Those 2 players are 2 top 10 Houston prospects, and then in turn ended up being 2 of our now 2 top 10 prospects. So it's Houston's number 2 and number 7, okay? Focusing on Jacob Melton, the Rays threw him in to one of these quotes that I'll have to find as being a core guy. They want to build around Mr. Jacob Melton. I think a lot of people in that front office were advocating for this guy. Jacob Melton, here's what you need to know. He has only played 32 major league games with Houston. He is fresh, he is green, but he has promise. They see him as a plus runner with quality center field defense. He's got a power and speed combo, and the Rays I believe Eric said it, if not someone else in the front office said he could be a 20-40 guy, okay? I want that to be true, okay? Because they're riding on this dude, okay? He is probably going to be on this roster sooner than later. We got to see, again, we've got a lot going on in that outfield, none of which I feel like is locked too much, beside maybe Cedric, which we'll get to him. But seen as a future core player is what I want you to remember, okay? They wanted this guy so badly that they gave up not only Brandon Lowe, but Jake Mangum, who I could see you float out there in the outfield again, although you have Chandler Simpson, and Mason Montgomery, who, once he finds his way, he's got great stuff. He's just got to learn how to command it. But anyway, 3 pieces, not just the one, to get Jacob Melton and Anderson Brito. Just remember the name. Find significance in the name. Bring him into your heart. Because this is supposed to be the guy. This is a guy they really like. And no, he does not look like Johnny DeLuca. Just because he has a mustache does not mean they look similar, okay? Don't get me going on that. Because everybody likes to get me going. They think it's so funny. Like, oh, look, another JDL. That is not another JDL. They just both have mustaches, okay? And they both play in the outfield. And they're both about the same height. And their eyes might even be the same color, but they are not the same. Anyway, so Jacob Melton, a name you need to remember, who you need to highlight, whatever the case may be, especially as we go into spring. So another player that we got in this trade was Anderson Brito. And guess what? He's another player that the Rays have liked since 2024. This is another guy they like. Which, I like that. He's a potential starter with an explosive fastball and 3 secondary pitches. One of their favorite stuff guys they've targeted for years. They got him. And again, they saw Bilal, Jake, and Monty as a way to get 2 of these guys that they've had their eyes on, one of which they're going to build around, hopefully. Okay? Names and faces, context, all very good and helpful. Okay. Shane Baz, and I kind of talked about this before a little bit, obviously, in talking about the trade, but the Rays were not shopping Shane Baz. They weren't. They weren't putting him up and saying, hello. No. And I said this before, but the Orioles took a big hack when they signed Mr. Pete Alonso. They still need to work on that starting pitching. They want Shane Baz. And then they said, here, you can take all of this. You can clean all of this. And we said, twist my arm. We couldn't say no. So the Rays received the Orioles number 6, 10, 11, and 30th prospect in their system. And also the 33rd pick next year's draft. Now, interestingly enough, Caden Bodine and Slater DeBron, which I might be saying those wrong. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll learn. Both of them were 30. Bodine was the 30th pick, and Slater was the 37th pick. And then we have them now, and then also this upcoming year we're gonna get the 33rd pick. Do you see what I'm saying? That's not even to include Michael Foret, who has, by all indications of my pitching friends, who I won't call nerds, but pitching nerd friends that I love, projectable arm. They really like him. And Austin O'Verne, who is also an athletic outfielder. Massive long-term play focused on replenishing talent pipeline. Why? Because they are building around the future. And I know I don't want to address it head on and say that head on because it's not fun. It makes you worry about 2026. It makes me worry about 2026. Although I do, like I said, I do still think they can be competitive. You still have most of your core on the roster. If you're building around Cammy, if you're building around Caminero, if you're going to throw Melton in there and you're seeing them as core guys, you're probably going to play with that. You still have Yandy. God, please. You still have Yandy for now. This is not a bad team. Do we still wanna hear those big names? Ketel Marte? Yes. That kinda Ketel Marte. Yes, we do. But but we have to remember, for the first time ever, there's actually something tangible that we can almost put our almost bet on. Ooh, I don't wanna jinx it. But, we're expecting a stadium in 2029, right? Really would be nice to have some momentum going forward. I'm gonna circle back to this. If I don't, remind me to circle back to it. Okay. So who else did we to be at? Okay. Admittedly, don't know a lot enough or a lot about Ryan Vilade. We got him from Cincinnati for cash. He's a former second round pick in 2017, I believe, by the Colorado Rockies. He's barely played in the MLB, I think. Might want to fact check me on that. I'm not sifting through that right now. Or no, maybe I did. I put Harley has played in MLB, but in AAA this past season, he hit 290 with 17 home runs. Also importantly, he's right-handed. He's right-handed and he plays the outfield. Sign him up. We already did. Okay. Ryan Vilade, we're going to see where he fits in. Now, I did also make a graphic of the depth chart according to the Rays website, which don't take as like Bible, but we're going to kind of talk through it at the end. Also, whatever I was saying before about the stadium. Yes, hopefully I remember. Okay. Anyway, Ryan Vilade, some of my friends who have followed him are very excited to see him. Like two people who I know who don't know each other are high on this guy, for what that's worth. Okay, Jake Fraley, claimed off of Atlanta waivers. He was formerly, I've talked about this before, a Rays second-round pick in 2016, which is the year I graduated high school. Anyway, part of the trade to get Zunino back in 2018, so he's never actually played in a Rays uniform, has been in the Rays organization. He is a little bit of a journeyman, playing for the Mariners, like I said, the Reds, the Braves, and he's a .248 career hitter. He was designated for assignment, avoided arbitration, came back. We re-signed him for a 1-year, $3 million deal with incentives. So, Jake Fraley, who I'm going to talk about in a second, so hold on. And then they also claimed Osvaldo Bito? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm so sorry. Anyway, claimed off of Atlanta waivers. Bit of a project piece in my opinion, but another depth piece that they can work with. I do love Schneids. I love our pitching department. So another patient to his list. Okay, here's where I think it's significant and telling, or at least like I don't feel like they're selling us. Not that they would sell us lies. Okay, I wouldn't claim that. But what makes me believe in this whole like building around the core, creating the core this season is that they're kind of like trying to. There's a word I want to use, but it's not the right word. They're trying to establish around the core or with the core veteran presence. Actually, I'm just going to say what they're doing. I'm not going to try to be creative about how I say it. And so in doing that, the Rays have spent $25 million on 3 veterans because they want them to be around this young core that they're building. Which I really like because, again, I don't think you're just saying like, oh, we're punting and we're going to be good in the future. Like, you're really saying, okay, but we're also, here's what we're going to do to prove it or to make the best use of our resources right now. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I do feel like in the past, the Rays had young guys with a lot of promise, but no leadership, no outward leadership, no vocal leadership. I always loved, obviously, Yandy and Bilal, but they're kind of quiet. Like, they keep to themselves. They're the elder statesmen. I always call them the elder statesmen. They pick on each other. They loved each other, but, like, I don't think they're leading the charge, right, in a comeback post-game victory conversation. And that's fine. That's just, like, not their personality. But in these last few years, I do feel like maybe everyone has been seeing that we have really promising young guys, but just like no anchor or no good representation, and I'm not even trying to get into, like, the scandal of things and, like, I remember there being fights at one point and just people not liking each other and big personalities in the clubhouse, and I'm all for big personalities. I love when people, wear what they wanna wear and they express themselves the way that they want to because we're all unique and we all have the right to do that, but I think a lot of that was not contained and things were coming out where players were saying, and again, I don't wanna get into, like, the scandal of it all because it's really not scandalous, but it's gossipy, but, players were like, "Oh, we're not playing as a team, like, each person's playing for themselves, and in turn, it's not translating or helping the team." And that's fair, that literally that is that's not crazy to say, but these veteran additions, I think they're trying to at least if they're gonna build around a core, if they're gonna put all of their chips into this basket in terms of building the core and things, they wanna go about it the right way from what they've learned about not having a veteran presence or a loud presence. So I think the Cedric Mullins signing is that. People are like, "He's not his all-star self," or like, "That's in his rearview mirror," or whatever. Very well could be, but is he a good guy who plays the game well, who represents the team well, who very well might now be the player representative now that Pete Fairbanks is gone? Yeah, he's like 7 years in the league, carries himself well, never heard anything bad about Cedric Mullins. His answers to the questions about why he signed with the Rays were well done and well thought out. So I think that's what he is, and he's in the outfield where we're having, Jacob Melton and we're having these younger guys. He very well might be just your veteran present signing who still can play competitive baseball, like, can put out a decent product. He's strong defensively, the Rays love that. I just see him as an anchor in the outfield and a leader. So, welcome to the team, Seti. I'm all for it. Steven Matz, same kind of thing. I know that the Rays were in looking for a veteran presence in their rotation. I still think they are. Like I said earlier, I've heard Littell, I've heard Eflin being thrown out, but signing a guy with an 11-year MLB career in Steven Matz is also doing this, a 2-year deal. He just went 5-2, one of his healthiest years in a while, with a 3.05 ERA in 50 something games. Again, I see this as not just a on the product, but also in the clubhouse signing. Stabilizing veteran Starden, who can also be multi-inning relief. He, one of the things they noted about his character and his leadership and his, what they see him providing is that he's been in the league for a while now, over a decade, and been a starter, been a reliever, is very much open to, I'm willing to do whatever the team asks of me. I've been asked to do this, I've been asked to do that. And if that's what they see is best, then that's what I do. Love that. Come in and tell the younger players that, you know what I mean? Anyway, another signing. Jake Fraley, who I talked about earlier, another veteran who's been around, a little bit of a journeyman, like I've said, left-handed bat in the outfield. But known to be a solid clubhouse guy. Obviously, the Rays know this man. They drafted him years ago. And so, like I said, $25 million spent on 3 players who are all veterans with significant amount of playing time and history and have been around, seen some things. I think just proves what they're saying about building that new core. So we'll see if that pans out. Obviously, I hope so. And that's the thing too. Saying a lot of this is interesting because we all want the same things. I think a lot of people are like point their finger and whatever, and it's just like we all want the team to be competitive. We all want the team to be good. We all want to like the players and all the things. Easier said than done though. I mean, like they're literally building a roster as best as they can. I don't think they're punting or they're actively trying to be bad or anything, but they're also planning for the future, which I think is exciting, right? Do I want to talk about that now? I think, okay, I am real quick before we get to the depth chart. I think, again, I've said it 3 times this episode. I think the Rays are still going to be a fun team, and there's a lot to like about them, okay? Your Cammys, your Arondas, even watching Chandler Simpson, we're gonna find out about Melton. Like, I will personally love every game that Yandy suits up for. Even if not, even if the freaking AL East is a crazy, crazy field right now, which it is. I want to make a video. I shouldn't tell you all my ideas, but I want to make a video of like different compilations of the AL East kind of being not irrelevant, but just like not as big and in your face as it has been. Up to the sound of like I took a couple years off and now I'm back because things are happening, especially with the Blue Jays, especially with the Orioles. We'll see about the Red Sox, what they're going to do, and the Yankees are the Yankees. But anyway, even if that all kind of gets washed away, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but even if it doesn't pan out, okay? Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Nice will it be come the beginning of this season and there's a beautiful rendering, the last rendering that we'll ever see in a good way. Because I've seen my fair share of renderings. I mean like the rendering, the one. How nice would that be? And to have a plan, have a location. You got my attention. Not only do you have my attention, I, I'm gonna be like a little kid with an iPad. I'm gonna be content. Okay, I'm gonna still show up. I'm gonna still go to the baseball games. I'm gonna still yell when I get frustrated and celebrate when I'm happy. But like, I'm content. And then say we make it to the end of next year and there's a shovel in the ground. You're buying me more time of contentment. So just keep that in mind. And then also keep in mind they're building to the future. They're building to what that one shovel in the ground is supposed to grow into one day. Just that's like my tidbit. I know it's like positive and people don't want to be positive and people are going to say it's not going to get done and they need $7 gazillion and no one has $7 gazillion and they're going to I know my take is positive. It's just, again, I've said this before, this team brings me so much joy. Why am I going to sit here and be so pitiful and so woe is me about things I can't change? The only thing I can change is my perspective and my worldview on them, and it's going to be positive until they say, hey, it's not working, we're leaving, bye. Until then, I'm going to be like, this is the greatest thing ever. Because again, this is my favorite thing. I'm not going to... Anyway, you guys who like to be negative, just don't hate me for being positive. I'll leave you alone for being over there. And honestly, the people who are negative are probably not watching my video because you probably can't stand me. But I just don't want to live every day in like agony over my favorite thing. What? That makes no sense. Anyway, let's go over this depth chart that kind of scares me. But I hope that it will, but who knows in which ways, get adjusted before we head to camp. So according to the Rays, I made this little graphic. I told y'all I spent some time. Okay, I think I'm going to put it over here. So I'm going to make room for it. So left field, they're projecting Chandler, DeLuca, Valade, and Jacob Melton. I think the Jacob Melton is just because we don't know if he's going to be on this roster coming out of camp. Like, we don't know. So that's your left field. I did put in, if you don't like analytics, then close your eyes. But I was just more so curious for my own personal curiosity on what Fangraphs was predicting for the different WAR for everyone coming into 2026. So that's what I have listed. Do with it what you will. Some of you will hate it. Some of you will not even care. So anyway, moving to center field, I think you'll see Seti there most of the time. You know what? I'm actually very, like, in my head, you signed Cedric Mullins to play center field like he's going to play center field, right? But also, you have so many pieces here. How do they look? And I know, Mr. Kevin Cash, love you, Casey, but he's not going to roll out the same lineup, and it's all going to depend on the matchups. So it'll be interesting to kind of see the cadence of like how this all comes together. But anyway, you essentially have Johnny DeLuca in all three outfield spots, which is nice. Interestingly enough, you only have Chandler in left and you only have Josh Lowe in right. And also Ryan Vilade can play the corners, and he's a righty. And Johnny's a righty too. And I think that's pretty much it in terms of I don't know. Is Melton? Oh my gosh, I'm so unprepared, even though I have 6 pages of notes and I made this graphic. Anyway, I'm curious to see how that all comes to be, if I'm being honest. Third base, they have Cammy, obviously. I'll leave that alone. Shortstop, I think unless I don't know what they would even do at this point. If you're prioritizing signing a second baseman, which I hope they are, you're probably rolling out Taylor Walls opening day at shortstop. Don't shoot the messenger, but he plays really good defense, so okay. Interesting to see what kind of spring Carson Williams has as well. I'm not going to undervalue the fact he got to play in MLB games last year. Like, that's very helpful. So maybe he gets like the advantage that most players don't get, is to come and play a little bit of the MLB. No, a little bit of MLB, and then I don't like when people say the MLB, and I just did it. And then we'll see if that like pays off for him in a way. Interestingly enough, they put Ryan Vilade as a second baseman depth piece. So I had to do some research on if this man has ever played second base, which he has, but I want to say it was in like double A, triple A. Not a ton of reps. Has played there, but not a ton. So interesting on like why that computer system did that. And then Richie Palacios, which I said in my last video, please use Richie as a utility guy. Do not roll him out there as your second baseman. Sorry, I'm shaking the table because that's how passionate I feel about how we should use Richie. Now, clearly I don't like either option at second base. I think most people don't like those options at second base. So do they get Ketel Marte? The Diamondbacks rightfully want everyone in exchange for Ketel. Not only is he a great player, but also his contract is pretty nice to keep on your books and to have him. So I've been back and forth on like, okay, just spin the house on him to get him to fill second base. But like, that doesn't make any sense, Taylor, because then you're going to probably, loosen or whatever it is, air out the tires on the other side. So I do believe that they have to sign someone. They have to do something at second base. But is it going to be your big name? No. Waiting for the chips to fall, whatever shoe to drop with where Bregman ends up, where Bichette ends up, is just kind of like what I think is, not that it's taking so long because it's December 28th, but until these free agents start getting moved, it's like no one's gonna blink first. It kind of annoys me because we're not in on the free agent talk, so it's like, someone do something. We're not. You do it. You open up your checkbook to sign Bo Bichette to $30 million a year contract. Like, okay, so the rest of us can figure out what we're doing. Bo did say he's open to playing shortstop, and someone on one of my pages said, like, why don't we just sign Bo? I wish we could. We don't got Bo Bichette money. This man's gonna need a 5-year, $30 million a year contract. We just don't have it. I'm sorry. I wish we did. So anyway, we need other people to start scooping up these free agents so the chips may fall where they may, or whatever the saying is. And then I've heard this. First base, okay, Aranda. In my mind, I have made the executive order. Yandy Diaz is not playing first base ever again. Ever. It's almost like he's earned the right to be the DH for the rest of his playing career. I also, God love him, I don't want to see him at first. I don't want to see, he is a good first baseman. It's not that. I think he's good, especially for a big man like that. Like, he's good. But anytime that man moves to his right and dives or crouches down or does, I'm holding my breath. I'm holding my breath when he has to leg out a double and people get mad and say, why isn't Yandy hustling? I'm sorry. Do you not see the wagon he's pulling? I don't mean to be that person, but like, he's close to his mid-30s. He's humongous. He's a power hitter. He sprays the field everywhere. And if Yandy's style of play, why is it so easy to say, Chandler Simpson or even Jake Mangum's style of play is that they hustle, like they out hustle their talent, if you will, legging out singles and doubles and stuff. Great. That's the way they play because they're not a power hitter. I think Chandler Simpson's going to hit one out. I want him to, but that's not his style of play. Yandy's style of play is not legging out a double when he's went 2 for 3 or 3 for 4 or is the only person in the lineup with a hit. Anyway, sorry, this is the Yandy Diaz show. People, Anyway, I don't want to see him at first for all those reasons because I'd rather see him in the lineup and not on the IL. There's not much more to that because there's been some talks about, well, why not just move Aranda to second, where, by the way, he's not that great. You can make the argument he wasn't that great at first and he got better, and you can make the argument that Junior wasn't great at third and he got better. Please. In what I think are towards the end of his playing career, do not put Yandy at first anymore. Just leave that alone. Go sign a second baseman. Then you have Nick Fortes and Hunter Fiducia. Not really anything out of the ordinary there. Oh, the pitching staff. Okay. Sounds like we're planning on Shane being back. Sounds like he's healthy. Sounds like I'm scared. But, okay. Shane's back. He will be on limited innings, so it's going to be interesting how you line the rest of your rotation up and your bullpen, because it's kind of the same thing with Raz. Coming off 2 elbow surgeries, he was on restricted innings limit. I'm sure the same will be for Shane. They probably already said it. So how you stack this rotation and subsequently the bullpen will be very interesting, very telling. So you have Shane, Drew, Pep. I think Pep gets moved in a Ketel Marte trade, FYI. So you shuffle in Steven Matz. A lot of my friends want to see Ian Seymour in that rotation. Joe Boyle, how are you using him? Are you converting? The rumor has been that they might convert Griffin Jax, who's open to being a starter. Are you moving that end? What are we doing? I don't know. I really don't know. My dog thinks that I just said, what are we doing? And talking about her because I'm always like, what are you doing? That's really funny. Anyway, I'm not going to look at her. Otherwise, this will go off the rails. She's looking at me, though. Griffin Jax, Clev. I also think maybe Clev gets moved if these trades have to happen. Like, these are just your high-value guys. These are the guys that you trade because they have value, and you are trying to get value back for what you need. Sada could be thrown into a trade. I shouldn't be talking like this. Like, I don't know what they're thinking and what they're going to do. These are the guys currently on the rosters. Relax. Ryan Baker, Hunter Biggie, who I'm really, really excited to see play again. I did watch the beginning of the Dominican Winter League. He was doing pretty well. I saw like him get his first save and things. I need to look up how he's done since. So sorry that I haven't done that, but he did play here. He has been playing in the Dominican Winter League. So I'm excited for him. I'm happy for him because I know his 2025 obviously did not go the way that he wanted, rehabbing and then getting drilled in the head with a ball. Like, just the fact that he was so eager to play some baseball in the Winter League is, I don't know. I find him very nice and enjoyable, and so sad what happened to him, but thank God he is okay. Manny Rodriguez, who probably won't be back until mid-season, so I'm sure they're factoring that into how they're going to shovel things. Steven Wilson, who they signed from the White Sox, as I talked about earlier. And you have to consider they don't have a closer. So either they're going to turn someone into a closer, or it's going to be closer by committee, which we've seen before. I hope that this was helpful if you wanted to understand names and faces, or kind of what the idea is on maybe what they're thinking. I'm looking forward to hearing about where FanFest will be. It's probably not going to be at the Trop. Definitely not going to be at the Trop. But when it is, where it is. And then, like I said, it's 45 days until pitchers and catchers report. That's a month and a half. That's not very long. So I asked AI I saw this trend from Paul Driscoll. If you follow him, you probably do if you follow me. He's a great Tampa sports guy. So I got the trend from him, and I asked AI about my handle, my @ name. Okay. They said, known as Tampa Bay Tay. She is a social media personality and content creator, which is, I guess I am, recognized for her coverage of the Tampa Bay Rays and the broader Tampa sports scene. I would say that's accurate. She's active across several platforms, which I'm honestly surprised I didn't single out Twitter because I'm mostly active on Twitter. On her Twitter account, she provides real-time commentary on MLB games, team news, and stadium updates. What? Such as a recent reports on the status of Tropicana Field. Yeah. Her Instagram, which if you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm not going to shame you into it, but it is tampa.bay.tay. Features a mix of sports-related posts and personal lifestyle content. Honestly surprised it even shouted me out on there because I need to be better about posting on there. But I appreciate it, AI. And her content focus frequently include viral baseball clips. Yeah. They do well. I'm sorry. I don't know. Interactions with fans, local sports updates, and often using the hashtag #RaisUp. Okay, question. I don't know if I'll ever get an answer. Do you like the Rays saying "Raise Up"? Do you like that slogan, I guess? I used to not like it, when it first came out. I think it was just because that's not what we say, and it was yeah, it is. It's just a new thing that we're doing. Why are you acting like this? But I was against it, but then I liked it because, kind of side note, as an FSU fan, it's nice to have the chop and know that that's kind of how you I like that it's synonymous with us, even though the Chiefs and the Braves try to do it. They're not very good at it. We do it the best. It's fine. But anyway, I like that there's something from the fan. I like the Vikings, Minnesota Vikings with Skull. I like those things that builds kind of just um what's the word? Not community, but I don't know. Synonymous with the Rays. So anyway, I'm curious if you like it or if you would be okay if it went away. I'm just curious. Secondly, speaking of that, actually I want to end on this. So as you know, Jake Mangum, great guy. His little thing, God bless and raise up. Now I'm sure he's going to do God bless go Bucks for the Pirates. I didn't mean to make that face. It just happened. I love the Pirates. I love PNC Park. It's fine. It's great. However, am I allowed to take that? Can I use that? Can I sign off with that? Or is it Jake's? Because he obviously said it the most, and it was his, and I wasn't saying it before him. But before I leave you, God bless and raise up. Sorry, Jake.